All right, everybody. Here we are for another episode of Coffee with the Founder. But I'm all coffeeed out now, y'all. I got to switch to water because I've had about 4 cups already. How about drinks with the founder? Legal. It's daytime still, but today we have a phenomenal guest joining us, Dr. Shemariah Arki, who has been a longtime friend, a colleague, but now a true sister for sure. Doc, we've been doing coffee talks as a way to introduce people who are in our WPC community, our WPC family, to each other a little bit better, to learn about the work we do, not only when we're presenting at the conference, but when we get to our places and spaces where we live after we leave the conference. So let's get started by asking you first, who are you and what do you do?
All right. Hi, my pronouns are she and her, they and them. I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a freedom fighter. I'm out here in these streets trying to get my people free. Right now, I'm the inaugural postdoctoral scholar at Case Western Reserve University. I work in the Floristone Mather Center for Women. And the class that I taught this semester that just ended was Pan-Africanism. I also have a small boutique nonprofit called Sankofa Circle, where we do capacity building for creative entrepreneurs. Other than that, I identify as an educator, lots of work in the community. All the work I do is centered on getting our people free.
Yeah. Now, for some people who may not be familiar with Pan-Africanism, Pan-Africa, can you just give people a sense of what that means?
Sure. So the definition of Pan-African is a definition that unites all of us who have roots to the continent. So technically, that's everybody, right? We can go back that far. But when we speak about Pan-African, when folks identify that way in 2020, it's those of us who understand and want to recognize that our ancestors were a part of the Ma'afa, the Mid-Atlantic slave trade. So recognizing that our ancestors were stolen from their homeland and dropped off at different places, not just the States, but many places in the islands. And just over the past 400 years with trade patterns and all those other things, we've been dispersed all over the globe. So by identifying as Pan-African, that lets the world know who I am and who my people are.
Okay, I want to ask you about Afrocentric. What does that mean and how is that connected to Pan-African?
Okay, Afrocentric, from my perspective, Afrocentric is a similar term, and so is centering Africa and the motherland. So we know that there are various cultures, countries, tribes, languages, so many, and we often, we've been socialized to say this place is Africa, but there's this whole variety of cultures there. So thinking about Afrocentric, those of us who identify as Pan-African, but don't live on the continent, we want to honor that. So it may be the way we dress, it may be our names, it may be the way that we wear our hair, the things that we use to decorate our homes. So really centering that we are these people from this place. So I think that's kind of the difference between Afrocentric. So Afrocentric is kind of like a culture, something that you do, and then Pan-African is an identity that you can have.
Yeah, that's helpful. That's helpful. Thanks for sharing that. Now, I'm thinking about my life's journey and experience with Pan-African, Afrocentric, and not that my mom didn't love Black people and didn't have any understanding and affiliation with Black people, but I definitely didn't consume Pan-African or Afrocentric kinds of trainings and learnings. And I'm wondering for yourself, is that something you grew up with, or was it something that you came to learn later in life? What's been your journey to where you are now?
Great, thank you for asking me that question. So I was born in 1980 in Cleveland, Ohio, and that was right at the end of the Black nationalist movement that was happening here. In 1968 in Cleveland, there was an uprising with the Black Nationalist Party, and the leader of the party was targeted and he was sent away to prison, and my father, Rabbi Bishop J. Arki, became the lead of the party. So this is something that I've been born into. So I've been raised with an Afrocentric consciousness and understanding that I am Pan-African and that we are part of the diaspora that has been dispersed, and we've endured all of this racial trauma. So that's something that I've been born with. That's who I am. As I've had experiences and learnings, I've come in and out of those spaces, but really having as a foundation has been central to especially the place that I am now. A few years ago, we had a commemoration of the Glenville shootout that happened in '68. And it was so amazing to meet people who were on the line with my father. And so just being able to connect that to my family history and then work and then my community work, my research, my activism. So that's kind of where it started for me. So it's branched off into different ways, but that's the root of it, is identifying as an African.
Yeah, that's helpful because, I know we both have recently experienced some journey to the continent. And for me, not coming from that kind of grounding, it was a different kind of experience. First time, I jokingly say to people, I'm not African American, I'm American trying to connect to Africa. I'm trying to earn that title. But for you, as someone who's been, grounded, give me a sense of what's it like when you're there at the continent, when you're visiting and have visited over the years.
Okay. So I just want to start with this quote from our good brother, Kwame Nkrumah, who was the first president of Ghana, one of the first independent nations. And he says, I am an African because Africa was born in me. And so that's my perspective. That's how I'm identifying, because this new life and this awakening, I've told you the story, I grew up with that. There were lots of books around my house. My dad made sure that we were exposed, but there comes a time in your life where you got to do your own work for yourself. And that time came for me. It came a little bit later, even though I was exposed to it a lot, it came a little bit later. And I had the opportunity to visit Ghana during the year of return in 2019. The first time that I went, I can't find the words. It's difficult to express that feeling, that sensation of being in this place where you've never been, but it's like, everybody. It's a feeling of being home. So being able to feel that, knowing all of the things that we knew, even on the plane ride. So I went with a group of study abroad students, and one of the assignments that they had was to write this letter to your ancestors. So we're taking this very comfortable, Comfort Plus plane ride, but our ancestors didn't come that way. And so really being able to reflect on those experiences that we've heard, being able to walk the grounds in the dungeons, being able to just, the sights, the smells that were there, things that, like, I'm talking about it now and I'm getting chills because it's such an important piece of my journey. And I am blessed and highly favored to go. I had an opportunity to go back, and I was invited back to the village of Akpafutozi, which is in the OT region. It's in Upper Ghana. And I was installed as a Queen Mother there. So I'll be working with the folks in that community to help build a high school for girls. So it's a place where I can realize my dreams. And I've lived here in the States my entire life. But when I went there, they said, what do you want to do? And I said, this is what, and they said, okay. And they began to pull the things together for me. The access, the way that we are seen by our people there, they see us and they know who we are and they honor us. And that feeling as a Black woman, I rarely get that feeling in the States.
Yeah. Well, I am looking forward to, being in collaboration with you to hopefully not only get back to the continent and participate in the project that you're working on now, but also to hopefully spark and ignite some other kinds of projects. One of them being taking more kids of color to Africa. And I'm wondering if you were to be talking to administrators or teachers or parents, or you as a parent yourself, about the importance of bringing your kids to Africa, or getting there earlier than we got there, what would be your case? What would be the PSA, the small message you would give to them to say, this is why you got to do this early?
I am a mom of 2 Black boys, and this is my case. I want them to be in a community of strong Black men. Here, our communities are so fragmented by the socio-political context that we live in. It's designed that way. It's designed for our communities and our families and our people to be fragmented. And so we are constantly fighting against that as simultaneously as we're trying to grow our families. There, we don't have to fight against this oppressive power structure. I want to take my boys because I want them to grow up. I want them to have an experience of growing up on the continent, of growing up in a village. Like we say, it takes a village to raise a child. I'm talking about a real village. I want them to have the experience of going to get the water, being the water bearer. I want them to have the experience of playing stickball with no shoes with all the other boys. Those are the experiences that are fortunate, that we, in the States, we tend to think like it's nothing. But those are the experiences that help to transform lives there. And I want my children, specifically my boys, to see that they are a part of something that's greater than they ever could imagine. Like I imagined it, but seeing it, feeling it, smelling it, touching it was a different experience. And my sons are 10 and 12. And to have them go now, they're going to be ready. Ready.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I was going to ask, because you're at Case and you are encountering white students there, possibly if we do and partner on doing some trips to Africa, there could be some white students there. What's your philosophy? What's your gut tell you about bringing white people to Africa? I mean, is that a good thing? Should we be considering that? And what could be some concerns or benefits as, you know, a professor trying to move all your students? Is Africa a good experience or a good opportunity for an experience for white students?
Yes. The short answer is yes. It's an experience that I think we all, as people who live in America in this privileged society, need to experience. Yes. So that's the short answer. The long answer is the trip I went on, we ended up taking students, and it was the first trip. I went with students from Kent State University, so I teach there part-time. And it was the first trip that they had taken that didn't have any white students. So it was really interesting for us as professors, not having to kind of do the code switch, right? To explain this to you in your language and then to everybody else. This is how we talk. And so with that experience, you know, as I'm thinking about taking groups back, like I'm going back for coronation at the end of 2020, you know, I'm taking my people back. My work is for my people. Now, yes, I believe that white students should go. But it's a different experience for white people going back and then for us going back. And I believe that those experiences can be split.
Yeah. I just been thinking about that, you know, as you mentioned, talking about the Black boy experience, but also talking about just our experience, how we had some, you know, probably similar kinds of, you know, awakenings, but some different ones based on gender identity. But that Blackness, I mean, it's just something, like you said, you can't even explain to folks what that's like. I was gonna ask you about the work you're doing during this time. Here we are, COVID-19 pandemic. First, how are you doing? How's the family doing in reference to this experience? But also, you know, as a professor with your students, your community where you're living, I mean, what's your sense of how folks are doing with this unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic?
Mm-hmm. So by the grace of the Almighty Creator, we're well. We have the things that we need. And I want to just say that because we're fortunate. I understand that everyone doesn't have what they need. And I'm grateful that in this time, our family is taken care of. My boys they're doing well. They're doing as well as can be expected. They are in two different school systems. So we already see the disparity in the resources, but this is just bringing it more to light. So it's not to say that it's different now, but we're just seeing it from a different perspective. So really being able to have those conversations with them around, I have one son in an independent school and then one son in a charter Montessori. But to think about the systems that they're a part of and the resource they have, the access that they are able to have from the very beginning, the transitions. So these are the things that were magnified for us as a family. Me working on campus, but being a mom, so having two boys at home now that I'm homeschooling with two different, curricula, two different styles, because like I said, one is Montessori, so they got their own thing going on. But really, making sure that they have what they need here so that they can still perform academically. But like I said, all in all, things are well. With the university, it was a little bit different. So for me, I've matriculated online. I got 2 degrees online. I've taught online before. So Zoom classes and WebEx, that's not new for me as a professional. But it was definitely new for the students, definitely new for them. And working with them through that. So the university that I worked with, there was lots of communication. And the communication, which is no shade to the university, there was lots of communication that came out, and sometimes it contradicted itself. Things were happening so quickly. But having students in class, they're trying to get the information that they need from you, but they got information coming from the president, student affairs, academic affairs, each professor, all their clubs. They're really trying to manage this in the midst of physically, their physical body being well, and having to move. So we know that moving is the #1 stressor in life for everyone. And so when someone sends you an email and say, you got to go by Friday, what if you don't have anywhere to go? What if you don't have any funds to get there? What if the only place that you have to go isn't safe? So as a professor, I had to kind of relax on the professor and just be there as a human being for my students. So we went for a couple of weeks where we just logged on at class time. How y'all doing? And they would talk to one another and we would talk. And if someone needed to break out in the breakout room, they would do that on the Zoom to have private time. But part of being a professor was making sure that my students were okay, because I know that they're not going to be able to perform academically with all of these life stressors. So I had to take a little bit of a break from that. And just knowing that, my skill set and my background is really unique. I facilitate a lot of groups and community, but those things I was able to mitigate with my students, I didn't learn them from the academy. I didn't learn them from being a professor. I learned them from being a facilitator, from being a person in community, from being a mom. So thinking about, the work that we do as professors, how we're trained, how teachers are trained. So we're seeing this magnification of this pedagogy, which has been sufficient in classrooms, but we know that it is clearly insufficient for the long-term sustainability of our young people's education. So that's what I've really been seeing in the classroom with my students.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask you, what do you think is gonna happen next, Doc, as you think about the next, not just year, but next few years of education? What have you been reflecting on and thinking about in reference to the possibilities of what's next when it comes to being a professor, serving students, all those dynamics that may be changing? What's been stirring up for you?
Okay, I'm gonna be real honest with you on this podcast. So I've worked for the past 8 years to get this EDD. So I've had it for about a year. I'm at the place where I'm supposed to be applying how the whole system is crumbling. So this thing that I've worked towards consistently for the last 8 years, it's very uncertain. And, that can cause lots of anxiety in a person, in a family. But so I don't know what's next. I know this is what I do know. I know that I don't trust the government. I know that the government is not going to center the lives of the people that I love and the people who I identify with. And so that's kind of personal. Those are the things that I know here intrinsically. But what I know professionally is that education as we know it, free and compensatory to all in the United States, it's not going to be like that. And I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. There's definitely going to be a transition. But when we think about the history of American education for the last 50, 60 years, we haven't had a revolution. And so it's unfortunate that this is the time, this is the thing that has brought the revolution. But I think that as parents specifically, so, as an educator, there's one way you can fight in the system, but I think that the parents have all the power. I believe that parents have all the power to change things. And it's time for us as parents to get ourselves together, to make our list of demands collectively as parents, but I mean at each school. I'm working with my son's 4th grade classroom. We have to make our demands around what our young people need. There's a small window where people will hear us differently, where people will listen to us and they will allow us in places that we traditionally haven't before. And so it's important that now that this time is here, we need to be ready. We can't be getting ready. We got to be ready. Get ready. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. That's what it says. We've got to be ready right now because liberation is imminent. We have to go for it.
So what is quarantine, pandemic, COVID-19, shelter in place? What has this taught you about you? Myself, 60 plus days in isolation, essentially. And I feel like those of us who are thinkers, who are evolution, who are revolution in mindset and spirit, we always are introspective. What are you looking at? What are you thinking about? What has this time with you taught you about you?
All right. The good things. They taught me that this time has really taught me that I need my people. I need my community. I need my sisters. I need to be in their energy. It's something about sharing space. And these are the things that I kind of knew, right? You kind of know, you read these things, you know them. But what I know about me is that I can't do the work that I do in isolation because it's not for me, it's for my people. So how am I here working for my people and they're not here with me? It feels inauthentic for me. And so that's why I had to get clear on this work that I'm doing. It's not for me. I benefit from it, but it's not for me. It's for my people. And so now just trying to pivot like you've been doing. How are we going to pivot this work to make sure that not only I get what I need, but to make sure that the people that I'm in community with, they get what they need too, because I believe that we need each other.
Yeah. So when you think about the next 10 years of your life, what are some things you have on the horizon? And can you share with people if you have a website or some other things that you've been doing or you do? How can people find you and learn about those things as well?
All right. So for the next 10 years, mark my words, I'm going to be a Ghanaian citizen. Speak those things into existence as though they are. So 10 years from now, I need to be on the continent, in my village with my family, living my life. But in between that, the things I'm going to do to get there is the work that I'm doing on campus, but then the work that I do in community as well. So you can really find me on any social platforms. My handle is Black, Feminist. So BlackComma, feminist. You can learn about the community work that I do there. You can visit my website. It's ShemariahArki.com, just my name. A couple of initiatives that I'm working on that I'm really pushing right now is the Ellipsis Institute for Women of Color in the Academy. So this is our 3rd year. It's a conference, a series that we host in the spring at Case Western. Of course, this year we weren't able to physically gather, but starting July 1, we'll have a series of webinars. We've been really big on social media for the past few weeks, just trying to, build up that brand and being able to secure some national level speakers. Our work has traditionally been local, but we are excited to secure some national level speakers, have some interactive webinars, Zooms, and to be active on social media.
Yeah. you got a book in the hopper as well, I think. Are you working on any books, or you got any
I think
books
so.
that you?
So yes, I'm currently on the editorial team for the book that is currently titled Teaching Beautiful and Brilliant Black Girls. Very fortunate to be a part of this team collecting stories about Black girls in the classroom from all over. I'm also working on another book that's scheduled to be out at the end of 2021 that's going to chronicle my journey back to the motherland, entitled Gender and Sexuality in Ghanaian Societies.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Well,
yeah, those are the two book projects that I got right now.
yeah, I asked you about the Black Girl book because I was wondering. Um, we've had some great conversations. I'm just wondering, what have you learned from the project thus far? I mean, is there anything that has surprised you? Can you just talk a little bit about what the Black Girl Project has taught you, and what teaching beautiful, brilliant Black girls means to you when you hear that?
Okay, I think I'll start there. So what it means to me is, again, it's back to the notion of space. So making sure that there is space for us as Black girls to be beautiful and brilliant. Often those terms are not socially congruent when you talk about women, and then you talk about Black women. People are not seeing those as being both assigned to Black women. So it gives me an opportunity to talk about our beauty and our brilliance, and to highlight, to amplify the voices of all of us. We've all been in the room, we've been the only. We've all had someone touch our hair. We've all had someone call us the wrong name. Like, these are the experiences that we have. And now is the opportunity for us to begin to amplify that message, and allow people to share their own stories. So not necessarily empowering them or giving them voice, but I'm passing the microphone. They have their own voice and they have their own power. I'm just making sure that there's a space that they can use that. What was the second part of your question? You asked me about, what was the process like?
Yeah, I was wondering if you've learned anything over the time together, putting the book together. What have you learned?
Yes. I've learned technical things around publishing books and being an editor. So I've learned those things, and those are skills that, again, you're not always going to get unless someone is going to invite you to the table. So I appreciate that about you. You've been doing that since I've known you. Always, creating space and amplifying the message of other people. So I'm grateful for that. So I've learned that the technicality behind that process, which is really important for a scholar, a new scholar. I've also learned things about myself and my writing style and my voice. And some of the things that I've also learned about working in teams, working across lines of difference, learning that, we know that our experiences are not monolithic, and we can say that, but there are still these tropes that people want to place us in as beautiful and brilliant Black girls. And even on an editorial team for a book on beautiful and brilliant Black girls, as a beautiful and brilliant Black girl, I'm gonna take that, right? Having to, just do the work. So the work that we're writing about is the work that we're doing.
Yeah.
But I guess the thing that I really want to say is we are doing the work, and it's not easy, but when you're a part of a high function, everyone has the same end goal, that's where you get the opportunity to learn and grow and make yourself better. So not to say that it's all, it's not difficult, it's not hard, we don't always agree, but we're clear on our end game. And so we come and we're ready to do the work. We want to model the way for those folks who are going to pick up this book, those Black girls, those teachers, whomever it is. We know that we've put together this process for them to partake of because we've done it ourselves.
Yeah. Let me close out with a couple things. First, I call this my lightning round, which I just say something or ask you something and you respond quickly. For example, if I say colorism, 15, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. What's your response?
Why are all the Black kids sitting together in the cafeteria?
What about code switching?
Why are the Black no? Okay, code switching. Survival.
Yeah. What about Black leadership?
Strong.
If you were in a lip sync competition, what's going to be your go-to song?
I'm gonna go with Erykah Badu. Probably the cover that she did, a Drake song, the one that say, "What's your phone number?" or "Don't call me" or something like that.
Yeah.
What's your phone number? Yeah.
Are you going to take Whitney Houston or Tina Turner?
Tina. She came first.
Are you going to pick The Wire or New Jack City?
Oh, I'm picking Jack City all day long.
Oh, yeah.
Bye, baby.
Are you taking Tupac or Biggie?
Tupac lips now. Tupac.
You going with Spike Lee or Tyler Perry?
Oh, Spike Lee.
You going with Kerry Washington or you going with Viola Davis?
I'm going to go with Kerry Washington, but this is why. Because one of my favorite movies is Save the Last Dance. So I'm going with Kerry Washington.
Are you going with Beyonce or Janet Jackson?
Beyonce.
Steve Harvey or Richard
Beyonce.
Pryor?
Richard Pryor.
Oh, Justin Timberlake or Justin Bieber?
Timberlake. I remember him from the Mickey Mouse Club.
Are you going with Taylor Swift or Lady Gaga?
Lady Gaga. Don't be a drag, just be a queen. Don't be a drag, just be a queen.
How about Cardi B or Nicki Minaj?
Cardi B.
Oh.
And that's my workshop. Help me wrap my weave up. Yes. Oh, I can remember listening to the first Cardi B CD on my way home from the WPC.
Really?
We were in Ann Arbor. Because it dropped while we were there, and I listened to it on the way home. So Cardi B is connected to the WPC forever.
So can you just speak to WPC? Because I think you're one of the few people that your entire career, essentially, you've been a part of the WPC family. Can you just talk a little bit about quickly the impact, the connection, the community, all the things that when you talk about that, if you had to answer that question in a minute or two, what has been the impact of WPC on your life's work?
WPC has changed my life. From meeting Dr. Moore back as an AmeriCorps member, being able to serve, being able to volunteer, being able to work and learn and teach, being able to travel across the states and meet with other folks who were not necessarily doing this work in my region. I've learned how to be a scholar. I've learned how to be a facilitator. Above all of that, these people are my family. WPC is my family. WPC is my family. When I think about, there are things in my home, there are milestones that I have WPC is my family.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Moore.
I appreciate that. And before you go, we've been asking people, because people have had some extra time to watch some stuff, to read some stuff, to listen to some stuff. Is there anything you've been watching, listening to, reading that you would add to our here's what to do while in quarantine list. It could be something you learn something from, or it could be something that's just taking you away.
Okay, so I want to say something that I've really enjoyed. A few things that I really enjoyed. I enjoyed, y'all know I like Erykah Badu, so she had her bedroom concerts. I really enjoyed those. But in addition to that, there's an organization called Girl Trek. And they're an international organization, brand supported, Black women led, and they've been having these dialogues between these famous, iconic Black women. And the first one was Angela Davis and Nikki Giovanni. And the second one was Dr. Bernice King and Oyasa Shabazz. And they're available online. They live stream on Facebook, but you can go to Facebook or YouTube and watch them. Those have been totally giving me life.
Yeah.
Those have been totally giving me life. And the other thing that's been giving me life is ginger tea. So every morning I cut me some fresh ginger. I have some lavender, some chamomile, and sometimes I put a little bit of cayenne in it, a little spicy, kick it up a little bit. But thinking about building your immunity, staying safe, all of those things. So ginger tea, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that, Dr. Shemariah Arki. I can remember back in the day, it was just Shemariah. Now,
yes,
I'm so proud of you. I'm looking forward to continuing to collaborate with you and WPC. As long as you'll come to the party, we'll have you at the party. You're always welcome. Give my best to the fellas. Y'all be safe, and please stay in touch and take care. Take care.
Agreed. Thank you.
Sending you some Wakanda, a little Wakanda hug. Appreciate you.
Yes, thank you.